You know that feeling when you know you're safe, but your body still hasn't caught up? Rachel Miller thought a fresh start in Maplewood with her 6-year-old daughter, Emily, would be enough. New town, new house, new routines. But some fears cross every state line. What she ends up seeing on those hidden cameras will upend everything she thought she knew about safety, trust, and love. Morning light slipped through the kitchen blinds as Rachel adjusted the tiny camera tucked behind a succulent on the windowsill. Her fingers shook, not from panic, but from the weight of what she was doing. 3 months since the divorce decree. 2 months since the restraining order. Yet David's last words still haunted her. "You can't hide from me forever, Rachel. Emily needs her father." "Mommy, why are you touching the plant again?" Emily's voice startled her. She stood in the doorway, backpack already on, curls bouncing around her face. "Just making sure it gets enough light, sweetheart." Rachel forced the practiced smile she'd worn through the last months of her marriage. "You ready for school?" Emily nodded. At 6, she was too young to understand why they'd moved 3 states away, why Daddy couldn't visit, why Mommy double-checked the locks before bed. Rachel intended to keep it that way. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. Rachel's heart lurched at the sound, a conditioned response she hated. She reminded herself this was scheduled. The housekeeper, Mrs. Henderson next door, had raved about was coming. "Lucia is wonderful with children," Mrs. Henderson had said. "Thorough. Trustworthy." Rachel opened the door to find a woman around her age, maybe slightly older. Dark hair pulled back into a neat ponytail, sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. Jeans, white button-down, a small cleaning bag in hand. "Mrs. Miller? I'm Lucia Morales." Her voice was soft, steady, with the faintest accent. "Thank you for seeing me." Something about her presence calmed the air. She didn't chatter to fill silences or pry with personal questions. As Rachel walked her through the house, Lucia listened closely, asked practical things about Emily's schedule and preferences, and seemed genuinely intent on making life easier. "Emily is very important to me," Rachel heard herself say in the living room. "She's been through some changes." Lucia nodded with a depth that went beyond professional courtesy. "Children are resilient, but they need consistency." "I understand." After Lucia left that first day, Rachel felt something she hadn't in months. Relief. The house sparkled. Emily's toys were neatly corralled without feeling staged. In the fridge, a plate of cut fruit waited with a note. For Emily's after-school snack. That night, while tucking Emily in, her daughter murmured, "I like Lucia, Mommy. She smells like my old teacher, Mrs. Garcia. Like vanilla and safety." Safety. Rachel smoothed her hair. "You know, when you feel like nothing bad can happen." Rachel's throat closed. When had Emily last felt that? When had she? Later, Rachel sat at her laptop, reviewing footage from the hidden cameras. She told herself this was necessary. She needed to know who was in her home, how they behaved when alone. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. But as she watched Lucia, paranoia gave way to curiosity. Lucia moved with quiet efficiency, but it was the small things that made Rachel lean closer to the screen. When Emily spilled juice on her uniform, Lucia promptly offered to wash it, working carefully until the stain vanished. She'd reorganized the medicine cabinet, putting children's Tylenol at eye level and adult medications above. She'd adjusted the front curtains, not to peek outside, but to improve privacy. Nothing about her suggested hidden motives. Everything suggested a woman who understood what it meant to need protection. Rachel closed the laptop. Sleep still didn't come easily, but for the first time in months, it wasn't David's shadow that kept her awake. It was the image of Lucia's gentle hands tying Emily's shoelaces, the way she'd automatically stepped between Emily and the door when the mailman knocked. Who was Lucia Morales? And why did watching her feel less like surveillance and more like something else? The next morning brought rain, and a call from Emily's school. "Mrs. Miller? Emily has a low fever. Could you pick her up?" Rachel's stomach dropped. She had 3 important meetings that afternoon, including one with a potential client who could change everything for her struggling graphic design business. Every job mattered now. "I'll be right there," she said, already reorganizing her day in her head. But when she came home with a drowsy Emily, Lucia was already in the kitchen. A pot of homemade soup simmering, a stack of children's library books on the counter. "Mrs. Henderson mentioned Emily wasn't feeling well. Lucia said simply, I thought you might need help. Rachel stared at her. I was going to cancel my meetings. Go, Lucia said firmly. Emily will be safe with me. And somehow Rachel believed her. Trust is strange. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it grows quietly in the spaces between words. Rachel was about to learn that the real risk in letting someone in isn't being hurt. It's being healed in ways you never anticipated. She sat in her car outside the office building, fingers locked around the steering wheel. The meeting had gone better than she'd dared hope. The client loved her work and wanted to discuss a long-term contract. It should have been a victory. All she could think about was Emily at home with Lucia. She checked her phone 17 times during the meeting, braced for a text about a spiking fever or some crisis. Nothing. Silence should have comforted her. Instead, years of hypervigilance filled the gap with worst-case scenarios. When she finally walked back through her front door, Emily was curled on the couch, cheeks pink again, laughing at something in a storybook. Lucia sat beside her, reading in a range of animated voices. Mommy! Emily hopped up, suddenly energetic. Lucia made soup that tastes like clouds. And she knows all the voices. Lucia stood, smoothing her shirt. Her fever broke about an hour ago. She's eaten and had lots of fluids. Thank you, Rachel said, the words inadequate. I don't know how to. You don't need to thank me.
Lucia's gaze met hers, steady, intense.
Taking care of people. It's what we do. That night, Rachel watched the day's footage with new eyes. Lucia had checked Emily's temperature every hour, coaxed her to drink water, propped pillows so she'd be more comfortable. But it was the quiet parts that caught Rachel's breath. Lucia sitting beside a sleeping Emily for 20 minutes, one hand resting lightly on the child's shoulder, eyes alert to every noise outside. She moved like someone who believed safety was something you created through constant, invisible attention. Rachel paused the video when Lucia glanced straight at one of the cameras. There was no suspicion in her face, only something that looked uncomfortably like understanding. Lucia knew. Over the next few days, Rachel tested the theory. She studied Lucia's movements for any sign of performance. There was none. Lucia never played to the cameras. If anything, she seemed most herself when she thought she was unobserved. She paused at family photos, her expression soft with recognition rather than curiosity. She checked locks without thinking, tested window latches, positioned herself carefully when answering the door. Not a snoop. A survivor. Mrs. Miller. Lucia's voice snapped Rachel from her thoughts one afternoon. She stood in the kitchen doorway, Emily's hand in hers. Emily wanted to show you something. Emily dragged her to the fridge where a new drawing was taped. Lucia taught me how to draw houses with strong walls. 3 stick figures, Emily, Rachel and Lucia, stood in front of a house encircled by flowers and trees like a protective ring. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Rachel said. But her eyes were on Lucia, watching Emily with such fierce tenderness that something shifted deep inside Rachel's chest. That evening, as Lucia gathered her things to leave, Rachel heard herself say, Would you like to stay for dinner? Lucia hesitated, hand on the doorknob. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. Emily would love it. And I? Rachel forced herself to be honest. I'd like the company. Dinner felt right. Lucia helped with Emily's homework, explaining math problems with patient clarity. She asked about Rachel's work and listened with real interest, laughing at her stories about demanding clients. It was the little things that undid Rachel. The way Lucia automatically cut Emily's food smaller, noticed when Rachel's wine glass was empty and silently refilled it, subtly placed herself between Emily and the window when a car backfired outside. You're very good with her, Rachel said as they washed dishes side by side. Emily was playing in the living room. She's a special girl. Lucia's voice softened. She reminds me of someone I used to know. Someone you used to know? Lucia went still, hands submerged in the soapy water. My daughter. She would have been about Emily's age now. The past tense hit like a punch. She died when she was 3.
Car accident.
Lucia's voice was level, but her grip on the plate tightened. My ex-husband was driving. He'd been drinking. Somehow, I was the one who lost everything in the divorce. The courts. They don't always protect the right people. Rachel's breath caught. Lucia, I'm so sorry. It was a long time ago. Lucia turned and Rachel recognized something in her eyes, that particular strength forged only by surviving the unbearable. Being here with Emily helps. She's lucky to have a mother who would do anything to protect her. The words hung between them, heavy with subtext. Rachel realized Lucia wasn't speaking in abstractions. She was talking about the cameras, the rules, the constant vigilance. How long have you known? Rachel asked quietly. About the cameras? Lucia's smile was gentle. Since the first day. The one behind the plant isn't as hidden as you think. Heat crept up Rachel's neck. I should have told you. I should have. You should have protected your daughter however you needed to. Lucia stepped closer, voice firm. I would have done the same. They stood in the kitchen, the air between them charged with something fierce and fragile. For the first time in years, Rachel felt truly seen. Not pitted, not judged for her caution, but understood by someone who had walked a similar road. Why didn't you say anything? Rachel asked. Because I recognized what I was seeing. Lucia held her gaze. A mother doing whatever it takes to keep her child safe. A woman who's learned that trust is earned. Someone who knows that sometimes letting your guard down is the most dangerous thing you can do. Tears pricked Rachel's eyes. And you stayed. And I stayed, Lucia whispered. Because when you've been through hell, sometimes you recognize heaven. Even if it looks like a cleaning job in a stranger's house. The most dangerous moment, Rachel realized, wasn't when someone tried to break her walls. It was when someone made her want to lower them herself. The line between protection and attraction was thinner than she'd ever imagined. And what she was about to see on those cameras that night would change everything. The confession hovered between them like a bridge neither was ready to cross. Rachel studied Lucia's face in the soft kitchen light. Not the housekeeper. Not a potential risk, but a woman scarred and surviving who had chosen to stay. I should go, Lucia said quietly. Should you? Rachel's voice barely carried. Before either could answer, Emily patted in, rubbing her eyes. Mommy, is Lucia staying for a sleepover? The innocent question broke the tension. Both women laughed, the sound edged with relief. Not tonight, sweetheart, Rachel said, lifting Emily. But maybe Lucia can read one more story before she goes. From the doorway, Rachel watched Lucia read. Seeing her with Emily sparked a complicated ache. This calm, this care, was what she once imagined a partner would be like with their child. Partner. The word stunned her. After Lucia left, Rachel opened her laptop, but not to watch the latest footage. She scrolled back weeks. She watched Lucia's first day with new understanding. The habitual lock-checking wasn't nosy. It was protective. Her attention to Emily's routines wasn't intrusive. It was caring. Rachel caught moments she'd missed the first time. Lucia's expression softening when she held one of Emily's shirts. The subtle way she angled herself whenever a delivery driver approached the door. Rachel skipped ahead to clips where she herself appeared, watching Lucia's reactions. When Rachel had come home tense from a difficult meeting, Lucia had wordlessly made tea. When Rachel mentioned being exhausted, Lucia had slipped into the bedtime routine without being asked. And the most recent footage from that very evening stole her breath. She watched herself and Lucia moving around each other in the kitchen as if choreographed. Lucia's face as she spoke of her daughter, all careful vulnerability. Her own face open, wanting. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like recognition. The next morning, her phone rang while she was getting ready for work. Mrs. Miller. David's lawyer. My client is requesting a modification to the custody agreement. Ice sluiced through her veins. What kind of modification? He's seeking supervised visitation. He's completed anger management and wants to rebuild his relationship with his daughter. She knew this moment would come. She'd prepared for it on paper. Emotionally, she was nowhere near ready. I'll need to speak with my attorney, she managed. After she hung up, she sat on the edge of her bed, shaking. The safe life she'd painstakingly built suddenly felt paper thin. David was pushing his way back in, and she couldn't simply slam the door. Mommy. Emily stood in the doorway, worried. Are you sad? Just tired, honey. Rachel forced a smile. Go start breakfast. Lucia will be here soon. When Lucia arrived, one glance at Rachel's face was enough. She sent Emily to play in her room. What happened? She asked, gentle but unyielding. The whole story came spilling out: David, the abuse, the court battles, the call. Lucia listened without interrupting, a steady presence in the storm. He can't hurt you anymore, Lucia said when Rachel finished. You have protections. Records. You don't understand. Rachel's voice splintered. He's charming. Convincing. He made me believe it was all my fault for years. What if he convinces a judge? What if he gets unsupervised visits? What if, hey? Lucia covered her hands, warm and sure. Look at me. Rachel met her eyes and saw steel there. You are not the same woman who was trapped in that marriage, Lucia said. You are stronger, smarter, and you've built a safe life for Emily. And you're not alone. I feel alone, Rachel whispered. You're not. Lucia's thumbs traced slow circles over her skin. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. The promise settled between them, heavier than labels like employer and employee could hold. That afternoon, while Emily was at school, Rachel made a decision. She could hide behind grainy footage and pretend this was only about safety, or she could be honest. She found Lucia dusting the bookcase. Lucia? Yes. I need to tell you something. Her heart pounded. I've been watching you on those cameras for weeks. And what I've seen, it's not what I expected. Lucia set down the cloth, turning fully to her. I thought I would catch you doing something wrong, Rachel admitted. Something to justify my paranoia. Instead, I watched you caring for my daughter as if she were yours. Guarding this house like it was your own. I watched you and... She drew a shaky breath. I started feeling things I haven't felt in years. Lucia's attention never wavered. I know this is complicated, Rachel rushed on. You work for me. You've lost a child. I'm still tied to a man who wants to hurt me. But I can't keep pretending what I feel is just gratitude. Silence stretched, and Rachel felt her courage start to crumble. Rachel, Lucia said softly, stepping closer. Do you know what I see when I look at you? Rachel shook her head. I see a woman who chose her child's safety over everything. A woman brave enough to start over. Smart enough to be cautious. Strong enough to let someone in despite every reason not to. Lucia was close now. Rachel could see tiny flecks of gold in her brown eyes. I see someone worth protecting, Lucia whispered. Someone worth staying for. Someone worth. Worth what? Rachel breathed. Instead of answering, Lucia lifted a hand to Rachel's cheek. The touch was feather-light, questioning, giving her every chance to step back. Rachel didn't move. When their lips met, it was nothing like the desperate, possessive kisses David had claimed as his right. This was careful, patient, an invitation rather than a demand. Tasted like possibility. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. This changes everything, Rachel said. Yes, Lucia agreed. It does. When you've spent years fortifying walls, the scariest thing isn't someone trying to smash them. It's someone who makes you want to dismantle them brick by brick. Rachel had thought she understood love. She was about to learn the difference between being owned and being cherished. The kiss shifted their days in quiet ways. Rachel found herself listening for Lucia's car in the mornings, looking forward to her arrival for reasons that had nothing to do with freshly mopped floors. Their conversations grew deeper, silences more comfortable, touches more frequent and lingering. Emily, with the uncanny perception of children, sensed the shift without naming it. She started drawing Lucia into family pictures without being prompted. She asked why Lucia couldn't come on weekends. She began unconsciously mimicking Lucia's gentle tone. Lucia makes you smile different, Emily remarked one night as Rachel tucked her in. Different how? Like when you used to smile at Daddy but safer. The words hit hard. Even at 6, Emily could distinguish between love that shrank you and love that held you up. Later, Rachel reviewed footage of a mundane afternoon. She and Lucia folding laundry while Emily napped. On camera, she watched their hands brush reaching for the same towel, the brief stillness, the small private smiles. What struck her most wasn't the charged moment. It was how natural they looked together. As if this had always been the shape of their life. The fragile peace shattered on a Tuesday morning when her lawyer called. The judge granted supervised visitation, Attorney Martinez said. 2 hours every other Saturday, starting this weekend. Rachel dropped into a kitchen chair. How? With the restraining order. The order stands. But the court believes supervised contact may be in Emily's best interest. Visits will be at the Family Services Center, with a social worker present. He's completed all mandated programs. After she hung up, she sat in stunned silence until Lucia found her 20 minutes later. What's wrong? Lucia asked, immediately moving to her side. Rachel explained. Lucia's expression tightened protectively. How do you feel? Lucia asked. Terrified, Rachel admitted. Emily barely remembers him. And what she does remember. She swallowed. I've worked so hard to make her feel safe. And you? Lucia pressed. How do you feel about seeing him again? Rachel thought about it. A year ago, the idea would have triggered a full panic attack. Now, with Lucia beside her, something else rose first. Angry, she said, surprised by her own answer. I'm furious that he can just walk back in after everything. That the system cheers because he checked boxes while ignoring years of damage. And I'm furious Emily has to be dragged through this. Lucia nodded. Anger can be good. It means you're not just afraid anymore. You're fighting. That night, once Emily was asleep, they sat on the couch, mapping out practical steps for the upcoming visit. When the logistics ran out, Rachel found herself studying Lucia's profile in the lamplight. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Anything. When you lost your daughter, how did you survive it? Lucia was silent a long time. I didn't think I would, she admitted. For a while I didn't want to. But then I realized surviving wasn't just about me. It was about honoring her. Making sure other children felt the safety she should have had. Is that why you do this work? Rachel asked. Partly. Lucia turned to her. But being here with you and Emily, it's different. It's not just about the past anymore. It's about having a future. The words vibrated with unspoken meaning. Lucia, Rachel ventured. What are we doing here? I don't know, Lucia said honestly. I know I care about you both more than I should. I know that thinking about leaving feels like losing my family again. And I know what I feel for you is. What? Rachel prompted. Dangerous, Lucia whispered. Because it makes me want things I decided I'd never have again. Rachel laced their fingers together. What things? A home. A family. Someone to protect who also protects me. Someone to love who loves me back. I love you, Rachel said simply. I know it's messy and fast and complicated. But I do. Tears filled Lucia's eyes. I love you too. Both of you. Their next kiss was deeper. Grounded in truth instead of tentative hope. When they broke apart, Rachel felt something unfamiliar but certain. Peace. Stay tonight, she murmured. Not for anything more. Just stay. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts about Saturday. Lucia nodded. They fell asleep on the couch. Fully clothed, Rachel curled against Lucia's side. It was the best sleep she'd had in months. Saturday arrived gray and damp, matching Rachel's nerves. Emily clung tighter than usual as Rachel zipped her jacket. Do I have to go, Mommy? Emily asked. It's just for a little while, Rachel said gently. There will be a nice lady there to make sure everything is okay. Will you be there too? I'll be right outside the whole time, Rachel promised, heart cracking. The Family Services building was sterile and neutral in design, but the air felt cold. Rachel sat in the waiting area, leg bouncing, checking her phone for texts from Lucia, who was at home preparing Emily's favorite comfort meal. When David walked in, Rachel's breath stuttered. He looked older, thinner. But the commanding presence was the same. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, she felt herself shrinking back into the woman she'd been. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucia. You are stronger than you know. Emily is lucky to have you. I'm here when you get home. The words anchored her. She straightened, met David's gaze without flinching. She was no longer his wife. She was Emily's mother. Lucia's partner. Her own person. The visit lasted exactly 2 hours. When Emily came out, she walked straight to Rachel and held on, quiet but unharmed. The social worker would later write that the visit went smoothly, that David was appropriate, that Emily appeared comfortable enough. The report wouldn't mention that Emily asked 3 times when they could leave, that she hovered closer to the social worker than to her father, or the palpable relief in her shoulders when she spotted Rachel. "How was it, sweetheart?" Rachel asked softly on the drive home. "Okay," Emily said. "He asked lots of questions about school." "But Mommy." "Yes. He doesn't smell like safety. Not like you and Lucia." Tears burned Rachel's eyes. "What does that mean?" "You and Lucia smell like home," Emily said simply. "He smells like when you're scared but pretending you're not." Children have a way of naming truths adults spend years avoiding. Emily had already learned the difference between love demanded and love earned. At home, Lucia greeted them with grilled cheese and tomato soup cut in heart shapes. She hugged Emily, then looked at Rachel silently asking. "We're okay," Rachel said, and for once she meant it. "All of us." That night, they debriefed in the kitchen while Emily slept. Rachel talked through the visit with a level of clarity she hadn't expected. "He's calmer," she admitted. "More controlled. But it feels performed. Like he's acting better, not being better." "Trust that feeling," Lucia said. "You know him better than any report." "I do trust it," Rachel replied. "And my instincts say Emily is safe as long as visits stay supervised and I stay vigilant." She hesitated. "My instincts also say something else." "What?" "That I'm done living in fear of him. I want to build something real with you. Not defined by what I'm running from, but by what I'm running toward." Lucia's smile lit her face. "And what are you running toward?" "You," Rachel said. "Us. A family that chooses each other." Love, she was learning, wasn't in the grand declarations. It was in the daily, quiet choosing. 3 weeks after the first supervised visit, a new rhythm settled in. Saturdays at the family center became routine. Each visit confirmed what Rachel had sensed. David was focused on proving himself, not on truly changing. Emily endured the visits with pragmatic resilience and came home eager for her familiar rituals and familiar arms. What surprised Rachel most was how the visits seemed to strengthen, not strain, what she and Lucia were building. Facing down her past with Lucia beside her highlighted the difference between surviving alone and thriving together. "I've been thinking," Rachel said one evening as they cleared dinner. Emily was in the living room, constructing an elaborate blanket fort. "About what?" Lucia dried a plate. "About us. About what this is." Rachel turned to her fully. "We've been careful. For Emily. Because of David. But," she drew in a breath, "I don't want to be careful about this anymore. I want you to move in. Not as my housekeeper, as my partner. As whatever you want to be to Emily." Lucia set the towel down, expression unreadable. "Rachel, that's a big step." "Are you sure?" "Especially with everything happening," Rachel said. "These last weeks showed me something. When you're here, I'm not just managing. I'm happy. Emily's happy. It feels like a real family." "What about legally?" Lucia asked. "If David finds out, could he use it against you?" Rachel had already asked her lawyer. "As long as you pass a background check and Emily's thriving, my personal life can't be used to change custody. And I'm done making choices based on what David might do. I want to choose what's right for us." Lucia went quiet long enough that Rachel's chest tightened. "There's something I should tell you first," Lucia said. "Something I should have said sooner." Rachel's stomach dropped. "What?" "I'm not really a housekeeper. I mean, I am now, but it's not my training." The words rushed out. "I'm a licensed social worker. Or I was. I specialized in domestic violence counseling before my daughter died. After that, I couldn't work with families anymore. The cleaning jobs were supposed to be temporary, while I figured out what came next." Rachel blinked. "You're a social worker?" "Was," Lucia corrected quietly. "I let my license lapse 2 years ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I was analyzing you, or had some agenda." "Were you analyzing me?" Rachel asked. "At first a little," Lucia admitted. "Old habits. But you weren't a client. You were a woman protecting her child. And I wanted to help." A laugh broke from Rachel's chest. So I accidentally hired a domestic violence counselor to clean my house, and she accidentally fell in love with me? When you put it like that, it sounds like fate, Lucia said softly. Maybe it is. Rachel took her hands. So, will you consider moving in? Because knowing your background makes me even more sure. Before Lucia could answer, Emily's voice rang out. Lucia! Mommy! Come see my fort. It has a secret room for important family meetings. They exchanged a look, the tension dissolving into laughter. I think Emily just decided for me, Lucia said, squeezing her hands. Yes. I want to move in. I want to be part of this family. The transition unfolded gradually. Lucia gave notice at her small apartment and brought her belongings over piece by piece. Emily was ecstatic, treating it as a permanent sleepover with her favorite person. Lucia slid seamlessly into their routines, handling mornings so Rachel could focus on her growing business, maintaining the household, and above all, being a constant, calming presence. Their physical relationship deepened with the same careful attention they gave everything else. The first night they shared a bed was less about passion than about trust. They lay awake for hours, trading stories, hurts, and quiet dreams. I never thought I'd feel safe enough to love again, Rachel whispered in the dark. I never thought I'd want to, Lucia answered, tracing soft patterns on her arm. But you and Emily, you made me believe in family again. When they finally made love, it felt like a revelation. Rachel was reminded that intimacy could be mutual, tender, rooted in consent and care, not obligation and fear. With Lucia, she felt chosen, not claimed. The next morning, she found Lucia already in the kitchen, making Emily's breakfast and packing her lunch. The domestic normalcy filled Rachel with a deep, steady joy. Good morning, Lucia said, kissing her cheek. Good morning, family, Emily announced around a mouthful of cereal. Lucia, are you going to marry Mommy? Both women froze. They'd been deliberately careful presenting their relationship to Emily, framing it as family first. Why do you ask, sweetheart? Rachel managed. Because Mrs. Henderson says that when two people love each other and live together and take care of each other, sometimes they get married. And you guys do all those things. Rachel and Lucia exchanged a long look. They'd been official only a few months, but the question didn't feel premature. It felt like stating the obvious. Would you like that? Lucia asked gently. If Mommy and I got married? Emily considered. Would that make you my other mom? If you wanted me to be, Lucia said. And would we live together forever? That's the plan, Rachel said, voice thick. Then yes, Emily declared. But I want to pick the dress. And the cake. And I want to walk down the aisle too. After dropping Emily at school, Rachel and Lucia sat at the kitchen table, fingers intertwined. She's right, Rachel said. About what we are. I know. Lucia's thumb drew small circles on her palm. Is it crazy that I want to marry you? We haven't even known each other a year. If it's crazy, then we're both crazy, Rachel said. I've never been more certain of anything. Even with David still hovering. Maybe especially because of that. I don't want him dictating our lives anymore. That afternoon with Emily at school, they went to a jewelry store. They didn't buy rings yet. They just tried them on, turning possibilities into something tangible. They gravitated toward simple bands, sturdy, timeless. I want something that'll still be beautiful when we're old, Lucia said, inspecting a slim platinum ring. I want something that reminds me every day that I chose this. Chose love instead of fear, Rachel said, sliding on a matching band. They left empty-handed but full-hearted. For the first time, their future felt like something they were building, not fleeing toward. That night, as they tucked Emily in together, she declared matter-of-factly, "This is how families are supposed to feel. Safe and happy and like everybody belongs." Afterward, in bed, they mapped out plans with the same deliberate care they used for everything important. I want to renew my social work license, Lucia said. Maybe work with women in situations like yours used to be. I think that's perfect, Rachel replied. I want to grow my business enough to hire help. I want more time with you both. I want us to take a real honeymoon, Lucia said, smiling. Somewhere Emily can come so she feels part of it. I want to buy a bigger house, Rachel added. With a garden. Somewhere Emily can run around, and we can host dinners. I want to adopt Emily, Lucia said quietly. If you'll let me. If she wants me to. Tears blurred Rachel's vision. She already thinks of you as her other mom, and I think of you as her parent. You're our family. A year earlier, Rachel had been a terrified woman hiding cameras. Now she lay in bed next to the woman she loved, planning a future instead of an escape route. The cameras still watched, but now they documented birthday candles and bedtime stories, not just safety measures. They say happiness makes you vulnerable, that once you have something to lose, life tests you. Rachel and Lucia were about to find out that loving each other wasn't the hard part. Fighting for that love would be. The engagement ring hid in Rachel's sock drawer for 3 weeks before she found the right moment. It wasn't the sweeping gesture she'd imagined. It was a quiet Tuesday. Emily stood on a stool beside Lucia at the counter, both dusted in flour, laughing at some private joke as they made dinner together. Rachel watched them from the doorway, heart full to bursting. This was it. This was home. Lucia. Both turned at her voice. Can I talk to you for a minute? Emily's eyes lit with knowing. Are you going to ask her the important question? Rachel blinked. How did you? I saw the ring box when I was putting away laundry, Emily said plainly. It's very pretty. Lucia will like it. Lucia's eyes went wide, flowery hands flying to her mouth. Rachel. Well, so much for surprises, Rachel said with a nervous laugh, pulling the ring box from her pocket. Emily, want to help me ask Lucia to marry us? Yes. Emily bounced. Can I hold the ring? It was the most unconventional proposal Rachel could have imagined, perfect in its imperfection. In their flour-dusted kitchen, Rachel knelt while Emily cradled the ring. Lucia Morales, Rachel said, voice shaking but clear. You came into our lives as a housekeeper and became our everything. You've shown Emily what it means to be protected without being controlled. You've shown me what it means to be loved without being diminished. Will you marry me? Will you be Emily's other mom? Will you be our family officially and forever? Tears streamed down Lucia's face. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, laughing and crying at once. Yes. Of course yes. Emily slid the ring onto Lucia's finger, then threw her arms around both of them. We're getting married. We're going to be a real family. We already are, Lucia said, gazing at the ring. Now it'll just be official. Rachel's phone rang, slicing through the joy. David's lawyer. Lucia squeezed her hand. Answer it. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it. Mrs. Miller, the lawyer said. My client is seeking another modification. He's requesting unsupervised visitation. The words landed like blows. This time, though, Rachel didn't crumble. On what grounds? She asked. He's completed additional counseling and maintained stable employment. He believes he's shown sufficient rehabilitation. I'll be speaking with my attorney, Rachel replied, voice controlled. When she hung up, Lucia and Emily were watching her closely. Is it about him? Emily asked quietly. Do I have to see him more? Not if we can help it, Rachel said firmly. Emily, no matter what happens, Lucia and I will always keep you safe. You are our first priority. Always. Can we still plan the wedding? Emily asked, searching their faces. Absolutely, Lucia said, drawing her close. Nothing stops us from being a family. In the weeks that followed, life became a strange mix of cake tastings and legal strategy sessions. Attorney Martinez was cautiously optimistic. Emily was thriving. Rachel had built a stable, loving home. There was no evidence that David's change extended beyond compliance. But Rachel knew how convincing David could be. He excelled at looking reasonable while being anything but. The hearing was set for a Friday morning. Emily stayed with Mrs. Henderson. Lucia took the day off to stand beside Rachel in court. Remember, Attorney Martinez said, they'll try to paint you as overprotective, maybe argue you're alienating Emily. They may also bring up your relationship with Lucia. Frame it as destabilizing or as you prioritizing yourself over Emily's need for a father. Let them, Rachel said quietly. Emily is happy. Safe. The proof is in her life. When David entered the courtroom, that old tightness grabbed at her chest. But she wasn't the same woman she'd been. She had Lucia's hand in hers, a growing business, a community, and a clear sense that she was fighting for her daughter's best interest. David's lawyer began, listing programs completed, steady job, consistent visitation. He crafted the image of a reformed man seeking a fair chance. Then it was Rachel's turn. Her attorney presented evidence of the past abuse, the need for the restraining order, and Emily's current well-being. School reports, therapist notes, testimony about her stability. This isn't about punishing Mr. Miller, Attorney Martinez concluded. It's about protecting a little girl who is finally thriving. Changing the current arrangement would prioritize his wishes over her needs. The court's duty is to the child. The judge requested to speak with Emily privately, with a child advocate present. Rachel waited in agonized suspense. When Emily emerged from chambers, she went straight to Rachel and Lucia. "I told the truth," she whispered. "I told her about feeling safe." After a brief recess, the judge returned with the ruling. "After reviewing all evidence and testimony, including my conversation with the child, I find the present supervised visitation arrangement continues to serve her best interests. The request for unsupervised visitation is denied. We will review again in 6 months." Rachel's knees nearly buckled with relief. Outside, as they left the building, David approached. Rachel instinctively stepped in front of Emily. His attention, however, zeroed in on Lucia. "So you're the new girlfriend," he said, voice smooth but edged. "Trading one caretaker for another, huh, Rachel?" "David, don't," Rachel warned, but Lucia stepped forward calmly. "Mr. Miller," she said, "I understand you're disappointed. But Emily is loved, protected, and thriving. That's what matters." His facade slipped for a second, anger flashing. "You don't know anything about my daughter or what she needs." "I know she needs to feel safe," Lucia replied, tone steady. "She needs stability. And adults who put her well-being before their own pride." For a heartbeat, Rachel thought he'd explode. Then he caught himself, straightened, and walked away. "That was brave," Rachel said in the car. "That was probably foolish," Lucia said, but she was smiling. "I couldn't not say something. Someone has to speak for her." "You're going to be an amazing mom," Rachel said softly. That evening, they celebrated with pizza and dove into wedding plans. They chose a small backyard ceremony, just close friends and family. Emily would walk first, tossing flower petals, and they would follow together. "I want to change my name," Emily announced over dinner, "to Emily Miller Morales. So we all match." Tears sprang to both women's eyes. "Are you sure?" Rachel asked. "That's a big decision." "I'm sure," Emily said. "Lucia is going to be my other mom. So I want her name too." 3 months later, on a bright spring morning, Rachel Miller and Lucia Morales stood under an arch of white roses in their backyard and said, "I do." Emily, in a pale yellow dress, walked down the aisle first, scattering petals with the confidence of a child who knew she was safe and beloved. Guests were few. Mrs. Henderson, some of Rachel's colleagues, Lucia's sister from California, Rachel's parents, initially skeptical, now clearly won over by Lucia's devotion. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Emily piped up, "I object to waiting any longer. Can they kiss now?" Laughter rippled through the yard, warm and genuine. Rachel's vows were simple. "Lucia, you taught me the difference between surviving and living. You turned our house into a home, and our little family into something strong. I promise to choose you every day, and to keep building this life with the same care you've given us from the beginning." Lucia's vows left no dry eyes. "Rachel, you and Emily saved me. You gave me a reason to believe in family again. Emily, you taught me that being a mother is about showing up every day with love and patience, even for 1,000 questions. I promise to be your safe harbor, your biggest supporter, your family forever." When they kissed as wives for the first time, Emily cheered. And the cameras, no longer hidden, quietly recorded joy instead of fear. The reception stayed in the backyard under string lights. They danced their first dance to "At Last" by Etta James. Halfway through, Emily cut in, and the three of them swayed together, a circle complete. Later, after guests had gone and Emily was asleep, Rachel and Lucia sat on the back porch in their wedding dresses, sharing champagne. "Do you ever think about those first weeks?" Rachel asked, head on Lucia's shoulder. "When I was watching you on those cameras, trying to decide if I could trust you?" Every day, Lucia said, kissing her hair. I think about how scared you were, how brave Emily was. How determined you both were to make something safe. I never imagined it would lead here, Rachel said, gesturing to the house, the decorations, the life they'd built. I did, Lucia said softly. Not all the details. But from the day Emily said I smelled like safety, I knew I wanted to be part of whatever you were building. I just didn't think you'd want me to. 6 months later, the custody review hearing came and went quietly. Emily, now 7 and thriving, spoke confidently to the judge about her life. David's request for more visitation was denied again. The judge made it clear future changes would require substantial new evidence. David seemed to finally grasp that his leverage over Rachel was gone. The supervised visits continued, reduced to a background obligation. Emily tolerated them calmly, knowing exactly where home was. Rachel's design business flourished. She moved into a small office and hired 2 part-time employees. Lucia renewed her social work license and joined a local domestic violence organization, guiding other women along the path from survival to healing. Emily thrived. She did well in school, made friends easily, and filled their walls with drawings. 3 figures hand in hand in front of a house surrounded by flowers and sunlight. On their first anniversary, Rachel gave Lucia a gift that made them both cry. She'd compiled footage from those early months into a single video. A story without narration. Just clips set to music, showing surveillance slowly becoming family. It showed Lucia tying shoelaces, tucking blankets, checking locks. It showed Rachel slowly relaxing. Laughing more, flinching less. It showed Emily's trust unfolding. Look how far we've come, Rachel whispered as the video ended. Look how far we'll go, Lucia replied, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. Rachel's eyes widened. Are you? 8 weeks, Lucia said, smiling through tears. Emily's going to be a big sister. They held each other in their living room, surrounded by snapshots of the life they'd built. Somewhere, quietly, the cameras recorded it all. No longer instruments of fear, but witnesses to a story of healing. Rachel had installed those cameras to keep danger out. She never imagined they would capture the beginning of the greatest love of her life. The cameras stayed, but their purpose had changed. They now held memories of first steps, birthday candles, movie nights, and ordinary evenings in a house where everyone finally felt safe. Rachel Miller Morales had learned that letting someone in can be the most dangerous thing you do. But if you are very lucky and very brave, it doesn't lead to heartbreak. Leads you home. And for her, that made every risk worth it.